What's up, guys? Achromatic Chronicles Blue by J. David, or as some of you may know him, Drunk 3PO. This book is a bit of a chungus, so I went ahead and split it up into two parts. So this is part one of Achromatic Chronicles Blue. The second part will be shortly following. But before I get going, guys, if you could subscribe to the channel for more in-depth reviews like this, where I'll go through the entire story of each comic and break it all down the way I see it, as well as my off-the-cuff series where I will read a comic, give my initial thoughts on everything, and that is spoiler-free. So now that that's all out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the story. So we open up with our main protagonist, John, and he is explaining through narrative boxes as well as thought bubbles that his world is black, white, and gray, nothing changing, at least not without any kind of consequence like punishment and whatnot. And he wants there to be something new in the world, but he doesn't want to get in trouble, so he just does like little tiny things every now and again. And I mean, things as minor as just like flipping his pillow around, just tiny things. He wants the world to accept change, and it's up to him to be the one to start changing things, but he's just kind of scared to want to do anything. We then get to meet John's friend Fortuna, who already seems like she's of similar mind to John. She's not fully abiding by the rules. This is real quick demonstrated by her wanting to take walks through the woods as opposed to, following the path. And after a brief run-in with a bully, who is at the moment unnamed, and Principal Moore warns John not to cause any trouble by asking questions, the two of them, John and Fortuna, make their way to music class. So in music class, we find that everything's still the same in there. You would think having some musical notes and things like that and, trying to create melodies, things would be chaotic. No, that's not the case. Everything is demanded to be the same. And John is still the outcast here. And despite his best efforts, John fails to be in harmony with the rest of his classmates, and they ultimately become irritated with him. Alright, so then we see a series of events where John gets in trouble and sent to the principal's office, and then he's worried, do my friends hate me for all the trouble that I cause? And things like that. He's really down in the dumps here. And he also wonders, are they even embarrassed to be like my friend? Things like that. And he goes to the principal's office, he gets scolded and threatened that, his parents are going to get called and things are going to go on his permanent record. And then, so he leaves the office and then is confronted by Mark. Mark is basically your head honcho bully here, right? He's the leader of it all. John runs away and tries to get to the buses, but the bullies all catch up to him, and so then John has to make his way through the woods to get away from everybody. John loses his pursuers in the woods, but now has a different set of troubles. This little detour of his through the woods has made him very, very late getting home. And as you know, that's something different. Now John is outside of the normal day-to-day. So, this is a big trouble in this world. And he's struggling to navigate through the woods. He doesn't know what he's doing. He just wanted to get away from a bunch of assholes. So after tripping over a rock, he finds a blue orb. Okay. Little odd. This is blue. He doesn't even know what this is. This is just not black, white, and gray. He examines it and finds nothing harmful and sees it as a means of helping him with his social woes. He's like, oh, look, I've discovered something that's different. You guys should, listen to me more. He pockets the orb and hurries home and hopes that it will also keep him from getting in trouble with his parents. All right, so he makes his way to the front door. He checks his pocket because, he's going to walk in and go, look what I found. This is why I'm late. My bad. Blue orb's not there. So all of his plans just went in the shitter. He searches everywhere for it, can't find it, and now is even later than what he was before. So, I mean, at this point, I would be kind of like, well, I'm already this late. Why the fuck, how much worse could things possibly get? But, I mean, he is a younger kid, so I get it. I get the mentality here. He turns in and faces his parents. John tries to tell his parents about the thing he found, and his parents are just like, whatever, dude. He's just making more excuses. And they're just not in the mood to hear any of this, and then they accuse John of trying to change the subject from him being late and sent to the principal's office again, because the principal did, in fact, call them. After giving up on explaining to his parents, and during yet another lecture, more on this later, John eats his dinner and starts his homework. John's sitting there doing his homework, and he keeps hearing like a squish noise. He eventually locates it from underneath his bed. The blue orb from the woods is causing the noise, and thanks John for saving him. Wait, what? Why is this talking to him? This shocks John so much that he panics and calls to his parents. Normal reaction, I would imagine. They rush in, but are quickly dismissive of his claims again and leave. John then tries to capture the orb, but misses, just like dodging every one of his little grabs there. And the orb explains to him that his parents still won't believe him. Then it explains that it's not an alien, but rather a color. John was like, okay, this thing's not from this planet, obviously. A fair assumption, I might add. Blue then has to explain to John what a color is, which makes perfect sense, being that doesn't exist anywhere in this world. Everything's black, white, and gray. This causes John more follow-up questions, and Blue is happy to answer all of them. And John finds this very unusual, since this is the root of all of his, troublemaking. Why he's constantly in, the principal's office, why he's being lectured, and things like that. He's always asking questions. So ultimately, John wants to be taken to where Blue is from. And Blue accepts this so long as John keeps Blue a secret from everyone else. John accepts this proposal, and the questions continue, now wanting to know more about Blue's world. John ultimately starts to realize that he's been dreaming about the world Blue is from. And the questions finally stop after Blue finds out that John is neglecting to do his homework, and he's like, okay, hey man, I'm willing to humor you, but first let's take care of what we got to take care of. And I gotta say, I appreciate things like that. Take care of your business first, then, social activities, games, and all that can take place after the fact. That is a message I try to instill within my children. John gets all of his homework done and is right back to asking Blue all these questions again. This time was he sleeping under a rock in the woods? And Blue explains that he was just waiting for a friend for about 2 weeks. Real quick note, 1 hour is equal to a day. 1 hour of our world time is equal to a day from where Blue is from. And so it wasn't truly 2 weeks, just, about 14 hours. Since he was waiting a long time, John offers to let Blue stay with him while he waits. Blue agrees, and the two head off to bed. The next morning, John wakes up and is startled by a new discovery. His sheet is blue. This is a little bit trickier than a blue orb to keep secret. Blue explains that, this is an accident, but I can only change things, the color, that they were intended to be. So his bed sheet was supposed to be blue, so it turned blue at the touch of blue. Still with me? Hope so. So to keep Blue a secret, John now must hide the sheet. As John gets ready for school, the two talk about each other's world and agree that to make sure that Blue doesn't change too much around, it's best that Blue stay with John, despite those risks. During breakfast, John is reminded about the little meeting that he and his parents will be having with the principal later on. But his troubles are only starting. He finds that Fortuna isn't at school today, and Mark has a bone to pick with him. So, rough day. John gets through the day, and then time to come to see the principal with his parents. That whole thing happens. Afterwards, John just feels awful that he goes to the room and he's just sobbing his eyes out. Blue comforts John, and they continue to talk about Blue's friend and homeworld, which John is now referred to as like Color World, and they agree that it's best for Blue to stay with John. John's dad, George, tells John to come downstairs where they find Fortuna's dad waiting. The adults are asking if John has seen her, and when he replies no, her dad has a breakdown, and his parents have now dismissed him. Reflecting on the recent news, John worries about his friend, understandably, and is determined to go find her no matter the danger, although he still asks for permission. So John goes out searching in the woods. Fortuna is nowhere to be found. Noticing John's frustration, Blue offers to give John a hug, but that honestly just made things worse because apparently John's shirt was supposed to be blue, because now it is. After a brief outburst to Blue, John recollects himself and decides to take his shirt off and sneak past his parents to keep his secret safe, because he really wants to check out this other world. His mom, or Diane, notices John coming home and goes up to his room to explain to John that when it's time for her to go to work, John and his father, George, are going to be joining her, so George can then explain to John that everything's the same at the flower shop there. Diane notices that John has changed his shirt and goes to question him. He admits, yes, I did change my shirt. She stares at him for a moment before just turning and moving on her way. So before departing to take his mom to work, John and Blue decide that it's best for Blue to stay hidden in John's pocket. They go to the flower shop, and George, John's dad, has John smell the flowers to prove that they are all the same. John confirms all smell unique, but keeps that to himself and agrees with his dad. The two leave, and George has a talk with John about fitting in and not being the outcast. When they get home, John tells Blue that he can let go of his hand, for which Blue replies, I can't. And that's where we're going to end part 1 for now. I just want to touch on a little theory of mine. I kind of feel like a lot of this story is just told from John's perspective. I don't feel that the adults are quite as cold as they are made out to be. But we'll find out. So I just want to go over some highlights of the story and some what I'm going to call tisms. So I like our main character, John. I like Blue and Fortuna. All normal kids. John's asking questions. Lots of younger kids about, somewhere in his age range. Yeah, that's what they do. They ask questions. They want to learn. I like it. I think he's a believable kid. Same with Fortuna. Mark, the bully, he's typical dickhead bully, A lot of kids had to deal with some form of bully. So what I'm getting at is the world feels pretty believable, at least from the kids' perspectives. I also like a lot of the messaging within it. I think it's good for younger audiences, such as Blue telling John to take care of his responsibilities before, they continue on chatting. John wanted to shrug it off and Blue just said, hey, I'm totally willing to answer these, but first let's take care of that. And as a parent, I do appreciate that kind of stuff, especially for material that is meant for a younger audience. Some of the, I guess, really the only real tism I kind of have with this is a lot of these adults are just absolute fucking pricks. I don't care for them much. Like his parents are cold, so cold, and that's why the theory is the way that it is because I want it to be that way. If it's not, I do find this to be kind of an issue. It's like I don't see that big of an issue for a child just to be asking questions. I get that that's how the world is set up, but damn, they are assholes. And I don't get why it's not okay for John to ask all these questions. He's constantly in the principal's office and labeled like an outcast through a lot of his peers. But Mark the bully is okay. I would like a little bit more clarity on how the adults view Mark because it seems like he's okay to just do whatever and John catches all the flack. That's part of why I kind of have that theory too. It's just like John maybe kind of feels like he's getting dumped on a bit. I would just like to have a little bit more clarity on that because, man, the adults seem like pricks in this. Very unlikable people. Even when they give each other like a glance, they just don't look like like John's more of an annoyance to them than a child who they love and will do anything for, and are just trying to guide him. We saw the dad there at the end trying to guide him, but he came off more of a dick, and I just want to see that done a little bit better, or at least let us know that okay, this is definitely from John's POV, and actually we have a different perspective from the adult side, and we see they do love him, and John's just taking it in a hard way there. It's getting some real strong Pleasantville vibes out of this. It's kind of like a child-friendly version of Pleasantville. Not saying like Pleasantville was a terribly adult thing, but just everything's black and white, and then a little bit of color gets introduced, and things start to change. Is more or less what I'm getting at. And so, I think if you like that, just want something more of a child-friendly version, go ahead and give this a shot. But hey, that's all I got for part one. I will have part two coming here very shortly. So until then, guys, take care and God bless.